Hey guys, this is HTOMario, and I'm going to be showing you a Terran against Zerg game. In this game I do mess up a little bit at the start, but I wanted to show you a new fun strategy you can do. That's one of the focuses of this game, and then the second focus is how to, the main focus is how to secure your lead against the Zerg player. So this is a fun game. Mithra seemed very good at macro at defending my harass. He shut down all my drops pretty damn effectively, so it was a good play on his part. But he was just never able to keep up, you could say, with transitions I was making, or really shut me down back at home. He was able to stop me at his base, but he wasn't able to stop me past his line, halfway across the map. So in this game, we do everything the same. I'm not going to go over the build orders too hard. I will be going over there a lot in another video. So in this game, we go for the Reaper, and we go for the bunker as a harassment on the Zerg's expansion. If you use the SCV that gets the supply depot, you should be able to be there before the hatchery finishes. If the hatchery isn't close to finishing, then he didn't go for a hatchery first, or he's got another base somewhere else and got this one second. So just some good things to know. I moved my barracks to be able to get the gas, but I never actually, to get a factory for the gas, but I never actually get the reactor for it. Usually when you move your barracks over, you want to get a reactor and then swap the factory over. And this allows you to get double Hellions at a time. So what I do instead is I produce one Hellion for some light pressure, and I decide with my extra minerals to go ahead and throw down an armory. I also got a very early gas before the starport, and then after the armory I get a starport, and I put down a bunker in my front. The reason why is because Hellbats are kind of okay against, Hellbats and bunkers are kind of okay against Roach's defense, and they're definitely good against Zerglings, which come a bit sooner. So I'm able to produce 2 Hellbats at a time already at the 7-minute mark of the game, and I get a medevac, some Marines, and I start my +1 upgrades. Hellbats do a lot of damage to Zerglings, and I believe with +1 upgrade they one-shot Zerglings. Let's take a look here. So it's 30. I don't know how much health Zerglings have. I believe it's 35. We're about to find out. So yeah, they have 35, and it's +3 for attack, or +2. Either way, the attack helps you fight late game Thors and Warlords. So this is one of the reasons why we go for the upgrade pretty early on. Then we get a Viking, and after that we continue trying to medevac harass. The goal of this harassment is to keep his units in his space. You really don't want to lose your units. I made some mistakes there. After a drop or two I decided, you know what, I shouldn't lose these units. And once my upgrade was about to finish, I dropped my second armory and my double gas. And this allows me to get my dual upgrades and produce more factories. But since I got those gas on my expo kind of late, I'm able to drop down a 3rd command center really early, and this increases my mineral outcome substantially, allowing me to get my 3rd base a bit sooner, and so I can get my 6 gases earlier. So it's like you delay your 4th and 5th gas, or 3rd and 4th to get your 4th and 5th faster. So here I take out some creep tumors. It's always great to take out creep tumors. One of the reasons why it's essential is because later in the game I'm able to establish my forward base with the creep not being quite there yet. It's closed, but if I was able to escalate the whole way, it would have been there, and it would have been a lot harder to take that base. So I highly recommend, if you can, snipe some creep tumors, as long as it's not too big of an investment. I'm trying to keep him busy in his base. Now he's made so many units, and I've constantly been able to scout out his tech and how many units he has to feel pretty comfortable back at home. I saw roaches, so I'm going for drilling claws because he seemed kind of roach heavy. I also put up just a few missile turrets. This is in case he was going drops. And since I'm Hellions out to harass my Viking to look for overlords, 2 more factories because I'm about to get my gas. And I'm working on my +3 attack upgrade when he's still working on 2-2. And I should be getting my +2 armor. So essentially, I am ahead in upgrades against the Zerg player, and that's not something you normally see. This allows me to trade much more efficiently against the Zerg player. Being efficient is kind of what Mech HTOMario is about. In my previous video, yeah, you heard my voice crack a little bit there. I just need to clear it. In my previous video, you will see that I kind of just threw away units at root cats, and this is because, well, I like to troll him. So I already knew I had to get one. But in this situation, we're going to show you how to further secure the lead, so it's the exact opposite. You know, we're going to skip the whole phase of making them run around. This is going to be the pure flat out what you should be doing during the late stage of the game. I built a sensor tower near my third. This allows possible surrounds to be seen and possible run-throughs to be seen faster. You know, so that's always a good thing. I also throw down 2 more command centers, or 3 more command centers. The reason for this is I'm in a very heavy macro phase. I have my 4 bases, and as a Terran player, once you've established your 4 bases, you're in a great position. You can handle a 4 or 5 base Zerg. Not easy, 4 or 5 base Zerg, but it's still also possible as long as you're being cost efficient to handle a 6 base Zerg. But this all depends on you being cost efficient. I scout this out, and I'm going to attack the top left to harass his workers. At the same time, I'm sending Hellbats to his base down below. I decided to snipe his queen. It's always fun to get queens, so it helps slow down creep, helps slow down injects, and you know, queens, with the reduced count, they can't heal broodlords or ultralisks as much. Now moving into here, and you can tell before this harass starts, I have 92 workers to his 84. I feel in a relatively comfortable lead. I do have quite a bit of workers for a Mech Terran, so I should scale it down a little bit. And just for my own personal notice, if you look here, it's 16. This is about mine out, so 3, 21, and 25. So you want about 3.5 bases worth of mining, you know, and then you know, okay, now I have to scale back once you have 3.5 fully saturated bases. So 16, 16, 16, and then 8. That would be too much. Or just, you know, you can sacrifice like 10 there, depending on how many orbitals you have. I'm building these 2 planetaries, or these 2 command centers here to fly over here and make them as planetary fortresses. And this allows me to keep my units down here to defend this base. I'm making this a planetary fortress in case of drops. I do not want this base harassed in case broodlords come from the side. I do not want this base to die fast and just lift off. I want it to be able to be repaired and wait for reinforcements. This is a little bit farther away from, you know, where my units, you know, like pop out over here. They'd have to travel all the way around over here to defend, and then back up here. So planetary fortresses are a great way to extend your reach. Over here, sniping drones is, although he had a lot of them, it is still quite necessary. If you can look at the bank, you will see. And this was actually good that he pulled these, because now I'm able to snipe these drones up here. But as you can see, I have a substantial bank lead over him. I have an upgrade advantage. You know, I have plenty of starports. I'm getting even more. I am starting my +2 air weapons. So, and my +3 armor is almost done. So I am pretty ready for broodlord switches. And he gets infestors. Vipers. So I also have some Thor's out just in case of Ultralisk. I have a few Vikings. Snipe down the Vipers. I have Widow Mines. I'm pretty prepared for whatever he can throw at me.
Field depleted.
So, he decides to send some changelings over, and that confused me. I was looking for them. They're around in my base. That's why you see the camera moving around a little bit. I'm like, where are they? I swear I saw them walk by, but they ended up dying because of lack of attention. I wasn't paying attention to that. Sniping that Raven was good for him. I see that he's getting this forward base, which means that he wants to establish this so you can be more comfortable establishing the top base. This doesn't concern me the least bit right now. What I want to do is establish these back bases real fast, and having these back bases allows me to just further distance myself from him in the lead. If you can see that he's got almost the same amount of bases as I do. He's got one more, but he doesn't have it saturated. He doesn't have the top left and the mid base in the very center saturated at all. So it doesn't bother me. I see a lot of spank crawlers here, and I decide to go up and keep this tank at the watchtower and siege him. It doesn't bother me because I have enough bases to be able to handle what he can throw at me, and enough bank. So despite him getting an economy, you can cripple the enemy's economy as much as you want, but unless you're able to destroy every building, unless you're able, you know what, I apologize guys, I forgot to turn this down. Unless you're able to destroy every building, you will not be able to actually kill his army if all you do is just constantly try to kill his economy. You gotta make sure that you have an army that can handle him. I see roaches coming up, and the reason why I pulled back was I wanted to make sure that these bases were getting up and defended properly. I'm now establishing the forward bases. I don't have too many planetaries where I have my units rallied just yet. I will be focusing on that very soon, but I now have the back base covered. I have this forward base established, and now I'm thinking, okay, now I need to make sure he can't come to the bottom, and then the only way to come through to me is the top, and that gives me plenty of time and space to stop you from getting to my production. So this fight up here, he pulls in some widow mines. I am not a fan of pulling in widow mines because this happens. I burrow them and you lose a lot of units. So this allows me to, the positioning that he did by pulling them in allows me to get right under him, which is exactly what I wanted with the mines, to hit the corruptors and the vipers. And I placed 2 siege tanks here, and I scan and I decide, I'm gonna be really careful about the way I'm pushing in. And he's using these overlords to get rid of the mines, but the mines actually aren't ready to attack yet, but they are after he sends the overlords in. So now they do a lot of damage to his ultralisks. I have siege tanks, I have point defense drones, and Vikings attacking everything. So this specific battle, extremely cost efficient. I've thrown almost no units away this game. I've been really, really careful about what I've been doing and picking my battles extremely carefully, just wisely. And you can see that by looking at the resources lost tab. He's lost a lot more resources than me. He's lost about 12,000 more resources than me. And I dropped some mules to further increase my units' longevity, or their lifespan. I want to repair these as much as I can. Terran units can be expensive and time-consuming to replace. Granted, if I lose this army, he can't flat out kill me because of the amount of defense I have, and he'd still have to, 1, kill his army, and he'd lose a lot trying to engage it, and 2, I have reinforcements building back at home. So I'm clearing out some of these creep tumors, and I see him come up, and I try to snipe some of these vipers, but he does drop a blinding cloud. It's on a few units, so he is able to finally wipe out this army, but he loses a lot of vipers, and he loses a lot of corruptors. Because of my upgrades, I'm completely maxed on them, and I believe he only has 1 air attack on these corruptors. I'm able to handle them, again, very cost efficiently. Now, during this game, I've been producing some battle cruisers while I've been doing those attacks. The reason why I mentioned it is that the reason why I dropped mules to repair my army is because you want to slowly lose parts of your army if you're preparing a new one. You don't want to lose everything at once, preferably if you can. Unless you have enough time to build a new army, it's not too relevant, you know, as long as his army can kill the enemy or gain you substantial lead. But you don't have to you don't want to lose your whole army at the same time. So by allowing them to live longer and him having to regroup up to take it out, it allowed me to get even more battlecruisers at home and Thors. So now I'm producing battlecruiser Thor. This allows me to handle Ultralisks and Broodlords pretty effectively. I have a lot of anti-air and I have a lot of anti-ground in between Yamato and you know, the high impact mode. Broodlords are kind of in a scary the Zerg tier 3 is kind of in a scary, or lack of a scary place right now. You know, they should be terrified of this army composition, especially mixed in with a few Ravens and a few Hellbats. Now that I've established this top base with Planetary Fortress, it's time to establish this bottom one, and spend even more on orbital commands so I can drop even more mules. I constantly try to intercept his armies and make sure that I keep his units on his side of the map. So even though he's been trying to engage me, he's been losing a lot of units because you know, he's been trying to cripple me in some way or another, which is good. He should be trying to cripple me. I have a lot of bases and I have a lot of bank, but I have a huge army. He's gonna have to deal with this army before he can actually really attempt to cripple me. And like, what he should be doing though is maybe some Nidus play, because my army is very immobile. I have a Widow Mine right here. It fired. I moved it back just in case so I can use it for later. And then I take this base out on top. I am now 2 bases ahead of the Zerg. And in this stage of the game, I feel very comfortable in what I'm doing. And I send these 3 Thors to attack the bottom left base while I attack the top left. So I know that he has to pull his whole army to deal with this. You know, it's really hard judging how far you are going to get ahead of the game with Ravens and Yamato Cannon and then Thors. You know, so he pulls his entire army to deal with his force, and then my Thors are moving across the map. I pull my battlecruisers back a little bit. I don't want to get them fungled. I want to be really, really careful pushing into them. The Thors, I'm not too worried about. I'd rather he spend fungals on them. This also means that there are less mind controls and stuff, and I throw some Yamato on his infestors and a few on his corruptors. So this army right now is a bit of a distraction. Yes, I am taking out a huge part of his army as my distraction army, but the biggest thing right here is that I've not only denied this base, I've denied this base, I'm pressuring this base, which is why he's up here, but I'm killing this base. So now, effectively, I've shut down 3 bases, which definitely hurts the Zerg player a lot. He has a lot of drones, and I have a huge army supply. I'm rebuilding a lot back here. I'm producing a lot of battlecruisers, and these battlecruisers, you know, just make it. These planetaries about to finish. He's not able to push into me. I've got dual planetaries, dual planetaries, dual planetaries, planetary here, dual planetary. So even if he manages to break through here and here, I can continue to mule here. So that's always a little bit of a reserve bank. Now I try to snipe this base, but because his macro wasn't quite on par with this specific queen, he's definitely able to out-heal my DPS. So he's thrown like 3-4 now heals, transfusions, and one or two more shots if he didn't transfuse would have definitely killed that. So it would have been quite close. I also made a bunch of starports over here. This is way more starports than I can afford. On the income that I have, but not on the bank that I have. I'm at now the stage of the game where I want to be able to instantly remax my army. I don't want to lose because it takes me 10 minutes to remax my army because I don't have enough production facilities, but I have the resources, I just can't spend them. So I use a bit of my investment to go ahead and be able to reproduce my army faster if I need to be so. I'm also sacrificing SCVs so that I can further increase my battlecruiser count. Now that you've seen that I've started dominating this matchup in this specific game by not only putting dual planetaries at locations where he's most likely to attack, I have a lot of orbital commands, which is something you want. I have a lot of upgrades, and I'm producing a lot of battlecruisers. A lot of battlecruisers.
Base is under attack.
Now, something to remember about the late game composition. or a question you might have specifically. Why isn't he getting more ravens? This entire game, he's fought me off with corruptors, and corruptors are really good at fighting ravens. Ravens are really good at fighting corruptors. Battlecruisers absorb the shots, point defense drones absorb the shot, ravens do the splash damage. But in this specific situation, you gotta ask, I ask yourself, why do we take the raven specifically? And it's because it can decimate corruptors, because a large amount of corruptors can be really, really hard to deal with. I decided that I don't quite need as many corruptors in this specific fight, because he doesn't have quite that, don't need as many ravens because he doesn't have quite that many corruptors. You can't afford them. So, although the Yamato is really nice, or the point defense drone is really nice, it's definitely, I think, more beneficial than these max battlecruisers over a maxed army. He only has 23 corruptors to my 17 battlecruisers. A Yamato cannon kills a corruptor, I believe, in one shot, which means that I can kill 17 corruptors, effectively cutting his army in half right now, almost instantly. Take some SUVs along with me or drop some mules to repair, and suddenly I have a very, very long-lasting army. So throwing in like 2 or 3 ravens, and maybe even 4 or 5, would be good with this army, and I probably should do that in the future. I also Yamato him, scan ahead, I want to snipe what I can with Yamato. The investors do have to come into Yamato range for a fungal. As you can tell, I am just decimating his corruptor count with my Yamato cannon. So even though he's able to take out some Bridlords, and again, as I'm saying, having 2 or 3 more ravens is good here. I was able to take out a huge part of his army very effectively, and these mules were to repair me. So I think in the future I will add on a few more. And I remember thinking after this battle, you know what, I think I could have been even more cost effective. I was thinking I overproduce, so let's try one without the raven on a smaller composition and see how we handle it. And it handled quite well, but I think that if there's like a lot of spore crawlers, the ravens become definitely more and more handy. So I think you should have like 3 or 4 of them and try to build up a huge battlecruiser camp. Of course, if he has a lot of hydralisks, then the raven becomes even better, because hydralisks have low HP, but if you get a lot of them, they can really dish out some really fast damage. So the point defense drone becomes even more valuable against the hydralisks than the corruptors, I feel. But then the hunter-seeker missile is more valuable against the corruptors than the hydralisks. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I apologize at the beginning had the game sounds, and currently at the time of casting this don't know how much that affected it. I still think that the majority of this build focused on the late game, so I showed you this game to focus on the late game, so I'm gonna keep it up and not remake it, because by the late game I had the problem fixed. So I definitely hope you enjoy this, and thank you for watching.